Hey y'all, it's Kim. So hopefully the sound sounds good and everything's working here. Change out another speaker, just because I'm not in a big time studio and all that stuff. But we're gonna record anyway. This is Darren Indyke. He was the attorney for Jeffrey Epstein. This is the second video on him because it's like a 6.5 hours, almost 6 hours and 45 minutes or something like that. Yeah, 6:45. He's answering questions about his ties and what he knew about Epstein. And I know other people are probably a little distracted with the Iran Israel stuff. And now Melania Trump comes out and says she didn't know or she didn't have any ties to Epstein. I'm like, I want to look into that because I'm like, what is that? My question is there speculation that she might have had some ties with him or somebody's accusing her of something because of like the whole John Luke Burnell and the modeling thing? It's like, every time you turn around, there's something new to learn from all these people. They're just all tied to Epstein somehow. But anyway, let's go ahead and let him do the speaking here. Oh, shoot. Hold on. Ah, hold on. Sorry. My screen is messed up. Why is it paused? Oh, sorry. My screen went blank for a minute. Okay, I got it figured out. Anyway, I'm not editing that out. All right, let's go and let him play. I'll probably do about an hour.
Attorney-client privilege. I just, for the record, if you wish to assert any privilege, you must say so on the record. So far, there hasn't.
I don't know what happened. Unless he's, well,
That were made against Mr. Epstein
oh, it must have been
during that
redacted.
2006, 2008 period. You had mentioned they were untrue. Who did you make that determination yourself? No, that was communicated to me. Who communicated that to you? And it's communicated through defense counsel. And the reason I can discuss it is it's the same statements that defense counsel made in documents they delivered to the government. And for the record, who was the defense counsel? Epstein had a lot of defense attorneys at the time. Off the top of my head, Gerald Lefcourt was one. I believe Jack Goldberger was one. I believe Mike Teen was one. Alan Dershowitz, I think I mentioned. Lily Sanchez. I'm trying to remember who was involved at that particular time. Cheryl Reich, I believe, was an attorney, a criminal defense attorney of his at the time. Guy Lewis also. Martin Weinberg, the attorneys came on at different times, so I can't tell you exactly who came on when. In addition to defense counsel, did Mr. Epstein hire private investigators? Mr. Epstein hired private investigators. I believe the defense counsel hired private investigators. Why were private investigators? Oh, sorry, Roy Black. I want to add to that. Roy Black was part of this as well. Why were defense or private investigators hired? Not being a criminal defense attorney, and not participating at the time that they did this, because I came in after. I didn't hear anything about the allegations until about 2006 or so. Much of the attorney's work had already been done by that time, including, I think, the hiring of private investigators. So the actual reasons as to why, I don't know, but I think my assumption at the time was that's kind of what you do as a criminal defense attorney, is you bring on a private investigator to find out information so that you can have a full idea of what you're defending. For the record, did you ever work with these private investigators? At some point, I did communicate with private investigators, I think, for payment. But and I'm sure I must have had conversations at some point in the process, not early on, but I just don't remember. But you yourself, as far as the work that the private investigators were conducting, you didn't direct them?
For the criminal work that you're talking about, absolutely not.
And earlier you mentioned that you never socialized with Mr. Epstein. Did Mr. Epstein ever invite you to social events?
I was invited one time, and it was the only time, to not a social event with him, frankly, but it was a Victoria's Secret fashion show. I was invited one time, and that was the only time. I think I saw him there once, but I certainly didn't socialize with him there. And it wasn't just me, it was me, Jeff Shams, who I worked with. So the attorneys were invited. But other than that, no. I never was invited to a dinner. I never was invited to a show. I never invited to a movie or anything with him. No.
And I want to return back to the statement that you provided for Epstein's defense. Is it true that you made Mr. Epstein a godfather of your children?
Yes.
Richard Kahn did
it was an
that
honorary appellation. I had no expectation because I didn't have that kind of relationship with him. But I wanted to show gratitude, do something to show gratitude for how he helped my wife and I have our children. And so I had asked him, would it be okay? And he wouldn't have any obligation to do anything. But, it's a way of honoring him if I could make him honorary godfather. And I did.
Sorry. Based on your testimony, your children did not have any relationship with Mr. Epstein?
No. I think in total, they met him twice in the office, and they were very, very young at the time. My wife was there. They were in the office. I think it was 2 times.
Would you have entrusted Mr. Epstein to care for your children?
To care for my children? No, I wouldn't have trusted anybody to care for my children.
Who is Ghislaine Maxwell?
Ghislaine Maxwell was an associate of Jeffrey Epstein.
When did you first meet Ghislaine Maxwell?
Sometime after I started working representing Epstein in 1996.
What did you understand her relationship to be with Mr. Epstein?
My understanding of it, at the time, my understanding was that she was largely kind of an overall household manager. Epstein, even then, would travel from different households. And Ghislaine was responsible for making sure that the households were managed properly, that they were supplied properly, that the employees there were doing the cleaning and things like that. That was my understanding of her role. I learned at some point that she had been a girlfriend of his, though I do not believe at the time that I was there that she was a girlfriend of his.
And you mentioned that she would manage Mr. Epstein's properties. Did you ever understand her to have any role in arranging or scheduling masseuses for Mr. Epstein?
No.
She never talked to you about paying masseuses?
No.
How often did you interact with Ghislaine Maxwell?
When I worked in the office,
God, I keep redacting all this stuff.
but she was there, so I would see her. I would say hello, that kind of thing. And it wasn't super frequent, but I saw her. I saw her there.
As far as your day-to-day and legal services you were providing, did you have any interactions with her?
At times I did. Again, most of my stuff was very specific. It was transactional. So there were times I believe Maxwell purchased a townhouse. So I did work for that townhouse, the purchase of that townhouse. I believe she had me look at an agreement or two I can't recall which agreements off the top of my head, but I believe she had me look at agreements or two. And sometimes she would convey requests by Epstein for me to do some kind of a transactional or corporate work for her.
And you mentioned the acquisition of the property. This past week, we had Mr. Khan testify, and he said that there were accounting work that he did for Miss Maxwell, and she, I don't want to mischaracterize this testimony, but said effectively that she didn't pay. Did she pay you for the work that you did for her?
No, it was done, to the extent I did work for her, it was at the authorization of Epstein.
Would you consider Ghislaine Maxwell at any point to be a friend of yours?
No.
Do you believe that Maxwell facilitated Epstein's access to minor victims?
I don't know.
Mr. Indyke, I want the record to be clear, so I'm going to ask you some questions related to the investigation of Mr. Epstein in 2005. When did you first become aware that there was an investigation into Mr. Epstein's conduct in Southern Florida?
I'm not entirely certain. I believe it was 2006, 2007.
And for the record, you did not have any knowledge of the illegal activity by Mr. Epstein prior to his arrest.
I'd worked for him for a decade, and I had no knowledge of any allegations being made against him like that.
On October 20th of 2005, police executed a search warrant for Mr. Epstein's Palm Beach, Florida home. Do you recall this occurring?
Can you tell me the date again?
October 20th, 2005.
I don't think I knew contemporaneously.
Palm Beach detective Joseph Riccieri spoke out about his belief that Epstein was tipped off about the raid since multiple computers expected to be at his house were missing when the search warrant was executed. To your knowledge, did anyone tip off Jeffrey Epstein to the October 20th search warrant in Palm Beach?
I don't know.
When you visited Mr. Epstein's properties, did you notice cameras?
Can you specify which property?
Well, you mentioned the Manhattan property at one point.
Sure. So let's break it down. The Manhattan property. My understanding about the cameras, there were cameras in the Manhattan property. My understanding is that they were external cameras. There was a security room when you first walked in to the right that had monitors of the external cameras that were all around the perimeter, the outside of his townhouse. I later found out, and by later I mean, I think, after things start to get conflated, but I think I found this out after he got arrested the second time, that there was one camera, and this is probably even after he died, that was one camera. He had a safe room in the house. I didn't even know there was a safe room in the house, but he had a safe room in the house. And there was a camera outside the safe room in the house. Those are the cameras that I knew about in New York. In Florida, there was much made about, I think it was in the press, a lot has gone on and lots of reports have come out since then. But I believe in Florida, there was a reference to cameras in his house, but there were cameras, as I understand it, that the police helped put in there because there was concern that somebody was stealing from him. So they put the cameras, I think, in his desk on the ground floor. And I wasn't sure if there was maybe one in the garage as well. But those are the cameras that I knew about.
There have been allegations that Mr. Epstein would record visits at various properties. You don't know anything about that?
I've heard the allegations. I know of no recordings. I don't know of cameras that would have done that.
Mr. Indyke, excuse me.
Yes.
The majority has about 5 minutes, and I just want to make sure the record is clear. I'm going to ask you numerous yes or no questions. First, how did this is not a yes or no question. How did Mr. Epstein act towards the young women or girls that he surrounded himself with?
The question assumes that I saw him surround himself with young women or girls. It's not true.
Did you ever witness Mr. Epstein engage in sexual conduct?
I never witnessed Mr. Epstein engage in sexual conduct.
Did you ever witness Mr. Epstein have sexual conduct of any kind with young women or girls?
I never witnessed Mr. Epstein have any sexual conduct, period.
Did you ever witness Mr. Epstein sexually abuse or assault young women or girls?
I never witnessed that, no.
Did Mr. Epstein ever discuss sexual acts of any kind with you?
No.
Was it common for Mr. Epstein or Miss Maxwell to bring young women or girls to any other place where the two of you would meet?
The only women that were ever in my presence, to my recollection, with one exception, I'll get to that in a second, were women who were either in their 20s or in their 30s, who were assistants, who I understood to be personal assistants of Epstein.
You said you had an exception.
I'm sorry, and the exception is he had a goddaughter. And I don't know that I feel comfortable giving her name, but he had a goddaughter that I believe he had seen from time to time, and I had met from time to time. A couple of times, I think, because she would, when I was in his home, in his dining room, she had come into the dining room.
Can I just be clear? So the exception was that's the only person who you saw as a minor female in his presence?
Correct.
Okay, just to be clear.
Who are the assistants that you're referencing?
Svetlana Pozadaeva. There was a woman by the name of another woman by the name of, trying to remember. If you have some names, I could tell you if I recall them or not.
And we'll have more specific questions.
Okay.
Did Mr. Epstein have children of his own?
To my knowledge, no.
Did Epstein or Maxwell ever ask if you wanted them to bring women or girls to you?
Never.
Did you ever have any sexual contact with young women or girls in the presence of Epstein or Maxwell?
Absolutely not.
Did you ever have sexual contact with any young woman or girl introduced to you by Epstein or Maxwell?
Absolutely not.
Did you ever witness Mr. Epstein receive a massage from a young woman or girl?
No.
Did you ever receive any massages from any young woman or girl brought to you by or introduced to you by Mr. Epstein or Miss Maxwell?
No.
We'll go off the record.
You go on the record. Mr. Indyke, good morning.
Good morning.
I understand that Ms. Crockett has a statement.
Just briefly, as you go through your line of questioning,
Yes.
when you reference someone, if you say the assistant, if you say the partner, can you also make sure that you reference their name after you label their title for clarity of the record?
I'll try to remember that. Yes.
Thank you.
Sure.
Mr. Indyke, I'm going to revisit some of the areas that you discussed with my majority colleagues in the previous round. In doing that, I don't want to make you repeat yourself. I just want to make sure that we have as clear a record as possible.
Okay.
So going back to the time when Mr. Epstein first hired you, did you have a title?
Attorney?
And if I understood your testimony correctly, you were the sole proprietor of an entity called Darren Indyke PLLC. Is that right?
Darren K. Indyke.
Darren K.
LLC. And I don't think did I give that name? But that is.
Thank you. And if I also understand correctly, Jeffrey Epstein was the sole client of Darren K. Indyke PLLC. Is that right?
He was the primary client. From time to time, he was the primary client, and from time to time, I would do things for him and for his clients. But he was the primary client, and there were times.
I keep redacting this
The
stuff.
expectation was that I would be available at all times, and that I would get projects for Epstein, and sometimes it's for Epstein's clients. I would get a project, and the expectation was as soon as that project came to me, that would be the most important thing I did, and I would get it done very quickly. So it wasn't, part of what I had to do was be available to make sure that I could respond to those things on that basis. And if I brought on more clients, that would interfere with that.
Are you familiar with an entity called J. Epstein and Co.?
Yes, I am familiar with that entity. I believe it's called J. Epstein and Company.
Were you associated with it in any way?
A long time ago, but I believe that's the entity that initially employed me.
And over what period of time did J. Epstein and Company employ you?
I don't remember the exact end date, but it was from 1996 for 3 or so years.
And was there another entity that employed you following J. Epstein and Company?
There was another entity called New York Strategy Group, which was primarily owned by Shantz.
I'm sorry.
By Jeffrey Shantz, the partner that brought me into. I believe I had a minority ownership of that LLC. It was an LLC.
And over what period of time were you employed through New York Strategy Group?
I believe that New York Strategy Group was my employer until, I want to say, the primary owner of New York Strategy Group.
And when did Darren K. Indyke PLLC come into existence?
That came into existence, I believe, in 2008. Again, it was some time ago, but I believe it was in 2008.
So does J. Epstein and Company still exist?
No.
When was it wound down?
I believe J. Epstein and Company was wound down when Epstein moved his primary residence to the U.S. Virgin Islands and formed a company there. I don't remember the date exactly, but the company's name was Financial Trust Company, Inc. And J. Epstein and Company was discontinued at that point, I believe.
Did you have any association with Financial Trust Company, Inc.?
I believe I was at some point a corporate secretary, may have been a vice president in an administrative sense.
You were asked earlier about your communication.
Stupid redactions, like whole sentences.
Report or include in a report to the New York Sex Offender Registry acts that he had used or that he had a presence on. I want to say that at some point, I remember Signal being used and maybe WhatsApp, though I can't tell you why.
At the time you started working for Jeffrey Epstein, what was his net worth to your knowledge? An approximate number is fine.
I don't know.
Did you come to know that later in time?
Well, I know it when he died because I'm co-executor of the estate. I had to know it.
Well, this one's gonna stink, y'all, as far as the video. The hell? Come on.
Have participations in funds, and those funds yielded him.
Come on. Stop redacting this crap.
That's not something I wasn't, again, that wasn't my role, but I did work for David Rockefeller. I believe Elizabeth Johnson.
This whole video is gonna suck.
I think Glenn Dubin was a client, like a client in the same sense that Wexner was a client. Dubin, as I understand it, there are a couple of different ways that he was connected with Dubin. Dubin had funds that he invested in, that he made a good deal of money off his funds. I think Dubin, if I recall, he referred Jeffrey to invest in a fund called DB's Learn. I don't remember the full name, but that's the fund name. And there was a dispute about DB's Learn that got fairly elevated. And as part of the resolution of that dispute, there was a settlement that came about. As part of the resolution of that dispute, because it was Dubin's referral to that fund, Dubin had some kind of
Mhm.
I don't know, and I believe that there was a payment from Sinofsky. I just don't know. I don't know the nature of that relationship.
And just going down the roster, to the best of your recollection, how much did each of these people pay Epstein for the services he provided to them? And I'll start with Les Wexner.
I really don't know how much Wexner paid him. It was a lot. It was a lot, but I just don't know how much.
And what was the nature of the work that Epstein did for Les Wexner?
A variety of things. As I understood it, and his relationship with Wexner predates my arrival there, but as I understood it, sometimes people who attain kind of this ultra high net worth standing get there gradually over time, and they kind of build their offices gradually over time. And when they do that, it becomes inefficient. There are people who are not necessarily doing things and getting paid to do things, and there are people doubling up on things. And so part of the thing that Epstein did, at least for Wexner, that I can recall being told about, was kind of cleaning house a little bit. Also, he would do things for Wexner, like, for example, even, somebody at that level of wealth has lots and lots and lots of assets. And all of those things, art, jewelry, all of that stuff require insurance. But unless you're kind of born into it, you don't know how you're supposed to deal with that. And how you're supposed to deal with that is photograph it and appraise it. So all of that's for record. God forbid something happens to it. You have good records to justify your insurance fund. So they helped organize it that way. Jeffrey did tax work, estate planning work.
Not to interrupt you, I'm receiving another request for you to speak up. I think some of our audience members are having difficulty hearing you.
If I move this closer, would it help?
Let's try it.
Yeah, let's do that. Sorry, my voice is not.
I think it's for the people in the room, just a little.
Yeah,
right.
The mic's gonna.
So I apologize to everybody. So Epstein also did estate planning work, did tax planning, help people kind of achieve kind of better tax results, more tax efficient results for themselves. I don't know too much of the detail behind this, but it was my understanding that with respect to Wexner, Epstein helped him gain greater liquidity with the wealth that he did have, just, things like that. Help.
That's a healthy picture, and I appreciate that.
Okay, so that's Wexner.
Yeah. Moving down the list, I think if we could just cabin the answers to the amount that each one of these people paid Epstein, to the extent you recall.
Sure.
The next name is Leon Black.
The way I know this is not because I kind of tracked it, or reported it is based upon what I kind of read through the papers. So Leon Black, he did work for us and can confirm that. I heard reports that it was something like $158 million, and that wouldn't seem unreasonable to me.
And David Rockefeller,
I don't know.
Elizabeth Johnson.
I also don't know. She was like a different lawyer by the name of Randy Ellison was the lawyer that worked on her account.
And Mort Zuckerman.
I don't know how much money, if any, that he got from Mort.
And then the Rothschilds.
Also, I don't know.
Shifting back to the period in time when Epstein hired you.
Yes.
Were you aware that he had an affinity for young women?
No.
Or for teenage girls?
No, absolutely not.
Did you become aware of that over time?
The only way I became aware of the allegation that he had an affinity for teenage girls was once I was kind of learned about the investigation in Palm Beach.
Did you become aware at any point that Epstein sexually abused young women and teenage girls?
I became aware of the allegation in Palm Beach that there were massages which at times ended up sexual, and that in some cases there were underage people in those massages. My understanding at the time was that he was unaware of their age. That my understanding is that the statements given by the people who gave police statements were that there wasn't force used, there wasn't coercion used. Those are the statements being made. I'm not testifying to myself as to what I know, because I don't. But those are the statements: no force, no coercion, and that the conduct was voluntary. But again, I'm not commenting underage. Okay, I'm not making any comment about underage.
Can I just ask if you were asking if he was ever personally aware, or he's talking about allegations, but was your friend?
Yeah, we veered off a bit. So yeah, right. I was focused on the personal knowledge.
So basically clear.
I'm sorry, I have no personal knowledge of that.
We'll come back to that. During your employment, Mr. Khan, with Jeffrey Epstein, did you ever? I'm so sorry, Mr. Indyke.
It's okay.
I beg your pardon. During your employment, Mr. Indyke, with Jeffrey Epstein, did you ever discuss with him his sexual activity with young women, whether consensual or otherwise?
No.
Did you ever discuss that topic with anyone else?
The topic generally, I'm sure, came up during legal conversations.
You were speaking during the previous round about Mr. Epstein's arrest in Florida. When did you learn about his arrest?
Again, the timing is a little bit cloudy to me. I don't believe I knew about it until 2006.
How did you become aware of it?
I believe, trying to remember back, I believe Epstein told me.
And did that conversation happen in person?
It was an in-person conversation. I want to say it was an in-person conversation. And I want to say it was in New York. I just don't remember where in New York.
And how long after the arrest did that conversation take place?
I don't know.
What did Mr. Epstein tell you during that conversation?
That he was charged, that he didn't really go into the details of the charges. This is more substance of it because I don't remember the specific conversation. And then he told me that there were lawyers working on it with him and that I should work with them.
What was your reaction?
Surprise and shock, to be honest.
Did you ask him for any additional details about the arrest or the nature of the charges?
I think I was so surprised that I didn't think to, and also my relationship with him wasn't so that I could get so deeply personal. And I had never been involved with anything like that before, so I didn't really know what to do.
Was the rest of Mr. Epstein's staff informed of the arrest at some point?
Yes, at some point. I don't remember when.
When, to your knowledge, was Mr. Khan informed of the arrest?
I said 2008. But
I don't know.
Did you ever discuss it with him?
In passing, but nothing in details.
What was the conversation in passing?
That's just the arrest. I think maybe when he lost banking privileges, must have been about the arrest. You know, nothing. Rich Khan and I do not get into detail about Jeffrey Epstein's arrest.
What did you discuss with respect to the loss of banking privileges?
In substance, not detail, that the banking privileges at Chase were lost. That, and again, I don't know if other than that the banking privileges lost, I don't know that I have enough detail to give you more than that.
Was it your understanding that the privileges at Chase were lost as a result of Mr. Epstein's arrest?
It was an assumption more than an understanding, because I don't know if anybody's experienced this, but when banks deny services to you, they don't, as a general rule, tell you why. They just say no.
But your assumption was that it was linked to the arrest as opposed to a different cause.
Yes. There was lots of publicity at the time. I think that this happened, and so.
And I also understand from your testimony during the previous round that you ultimately represented Mr. Epstein along with other counsel in connection with his arrest and prosecution in Florida.
I was never the direct defense counsel, but I was brought on as a group of people that were.
So it would be fair to say that you were a member of his defense team?
Yes, very loosely, but yes.
So I think that anticipates my next question. Was there an allocation of responsibility among the members of the team? Did certain lawyers have responsibilities that differed from others?
You can't talk about how he allocated responsibility among the lawyers. There wasn't a group meeting like, you do this, you do that, you do the other thing.
Based on your observation.
My observation was that there was a group of lawyers at the time, all of whom kind of shared information and did things together. My role was on a specific task oriented. Sometimes I would, if Epstein would ask me, did so-and-so do this yet? Could you ask them to do this, or ask them when they're going to do this? But I believe it was more like a group thing. Some people were better writers than others. Marty Weinberg was a very good writer. Dave Lefkowitz also a very good writer. But I think as a rule, everybody kind of worked together.
And what, to your understanding, were the crimes that Jeffrey Epstein ultimately pled to?
My understanding was that there were two charges. One charge was a solicitation of prostitution, and the other charge was procuring prostitution of someone under the age of 18.
And please correct me if I'm wrong. I understand from your testimony earlier that you were aware of the requirement that Jeffrey Epstein register as a sex offender in various states as a result of his plea. Is that right?
Yes, I became aware of that fact, yes.
And that included New York State.
Yes, there was an initial registration in New York.
And you were involved in the registration, is that right?
Yes, I believe I was involved in the registration.
And did you become aware in connection with that Jeffrey Epstein was designated a level 3 sex offender in New York State?
The answer to your question is yes, but that was after a round of litigation.
The issue was litigated.
The issue was litigated, yes.
And were you part of the legal team that represented him in connection with that litigation?
Loosely.
And was it your understanding at the time that level 3 under New York State law meant that there had been a determination that Epstein posed a high risk of a repeat offense and a threat to public safety?
I understood it was a different designation, but I didn't understand that.
Broadly speaking, were you troubled by Mr. Epstein's guilty plea and incarceration in Florida?
Was I troubled? I was troubled. I guess the answer is yes. It was troubling. The problem I have in grasping and kind of tackling the question you have is not really knowing what it is. It has come to, as it's come to pass. Clearly, he did something. At the time, what I was struggling with is what it is that he actually did do. I think I went into previously I went into how the police reports were inconsistent with recorded statements, how there were references to items as sex toys, which were broken salad utensils. There was even a statement from, I never heard the statement directly, but I was made aware of a statement made by the lead prosecutor in Florida, who was a female experienced sex crimes prosecutor that uttered a statement to the effect that there were no real victims there. Now, I'm not saying there weren't. I'm just saying that that's what I heard at the time. So I'm struggling with these things and not knowing what allegations are true or what allegations aren't true. And I know that with respect to his sex offense, the sex offender charge, which was required not by the state, it was required by the U.S. Attorney's Office. After the state had kind of convened the grand jury came back with something that I don't remember the charge, but it wasn't that charge. And the consequence for that charge was mandatory PTI, which was much less than obviously the police chief wanted. And so what happened during the course of the
I wish I quit redacting this stuff. Most of this information is probably already out there.
Wanting to plead to charges that would, one, put him in jail, and two, plead to charges that for which there would be a sex offender registration requirement. And the charge that they ultimately said you should go back to the state and make them charge you this was a charge that the defense team had been saying that they didn't have the factual predicate to actually have that charge, but that will do it because that's what you want to get this thing resolved. So the troubling part of it, it's hard for me to know for sure what actually happened, what was true, what was not true. A lot of the allegations turned out not to be true.
What about now? Do you have a belief as to whether girls and women were abused in Florida?
Well, again, after he after he was arrested the second time and then died, lots of people have come forward. Lots of them have come forward who didn't come forward before, who said that they hadn't come forward. But since then, as the co-executive of the state, I've been made aware of many, many claims. And so with that number of claims being made, it's really hard to say that, no, he didn't do anything. Obviously, he did a lot of terrible things. So my view is, I don't know exactly what he did. And I'd say this again, because I want everybody to be clear about this. I didn't see it. I didn't see anything and nobody complained to me about anything. So I don't know, but all these people came forward. So obviously there's something there. So your question is, what do I believe? No, I believe he did bad things.
At any point after you learned about Mr. Epstein's arrest in Florida, did you ever consider quitting your job?
With all of the discussion about how the answers, I don't think I did. I'm going back in time. I don't think I did. And the explanation for that is twofold. With all of the discussion about the defects in the investigation and statements from like the lead prosecutor, so all of these conflicting reports came. It seemed to me, who was very inexperienced with this stuff, that maybe it wasn't what they were saying. And so I drank the Kool-Aid at the time. I think that's the answer, is I drank the Kool-Aid at the time.
Were abused,
I believe so, yes.
raped. Alleged that she met Epstein in South Carolina in the 1980s, and through him was introduced to President Trump, who we know the allegation was that he abused her when she was 13, and these are allegations made by Jane Doe 4. Are you aware of Jane Doe 4?
I'm aware of the Jane Doe, the case Jane Doe.
You're aware of Jane Doe 4?
Aware of the case Jane Doe 4. I'm not aware of the person.
Do you know the identity of Jane Doe 4 in this case?
Dude, quit being
I
aggressive.
So you do not know the identity of Jane Doe 4?
Couldn't tell you.
Okay. Have you ever seen a document with the identity of Jane Doe 4?
I'm sure I must have.
You have seen a document?
I'm sure I must have.
Okay. Now, last week, Mr. Khan, who's a co-executive of the estate, testified that Jane Doe 4 had received a settlement from the Epstein estate, of which you were co. Filed a claim against the Epstein estate. Now, since then, there's been additional back and forth and confusion about the details of Jane Doe 4 and her interactions with the estate. And there's been back and forth and clarification. So I just want for clarity, since you're a co-executor,
things about anything with Jane Doe's. The first is we're bound by court orders not to say anything about the identity to the extent someone has sued under a Jane Doe name. We're not permitted by court orders to say who the person is at all. Secondly, putting aside whether it's someone as a Jane Doe or someone specifically identified, we are bound in confidentiality requirements in any settlement. We are, as the estate and the co-executors, to not identify if someone has settled or anything about the settlements. Having said that, any of those claimants who have settled, typically they are not bound by that. So, you're free to ask them if they want to identify things, but we cannot do that.
Good. Aside from the identity and disclosing the identity to us of Jane Doe 4, any NDAs or non-disclosure agreements, as Guys, in this case, given that you were under subpoena, we would ask that you provide us information whether Jane Doe 4 pursued the settlement.
And let me continue.
Yeah, but let me just say to that quickly that putting aside whatever order may come out requiring them to disclose, I believe, but I'd have to look at each particular settlement agreement. We likely have notice provisions to the person settling. If we were bound to disclose it, to first notify that person, because they could probably take.
So to be clear, you're not confirming or denying
we
that there
cannot.
was a settlement of Jane Doe 4, is that correct?
We cannot.
So Mr. Indyke, was there a settlement paid from the Epstein Victim Compensation Program to any Jane Doe or Jane Doe 4?
We have the same confidentiality restrictions.
So you're not unwilling to answer if there was actually a payment from the Epstein Victim Compensation?
It's not a willingness issue, it's a bound by confidentiality.
I'm not going to take that premise, but I understand your position. Mr. Indyke, do you have any additional information on Jane Doe 4 that you can provide us?
No.
Okay, great. Mr. Indyke.
Yes.
The Epstein estate has provided documents and productions to this committee per subpoena, as you're aware, and we have welcomed those, of course, and we've gone through those, and we have continued to go through what's been provided. Not all the documents have still been provided to the committee. There's still some documents we believe that are in your possession. Is that correct?
In my possession, personally?
In the possession of the estate.
In response to the subpoena?
In response to the subpoena.
I think based on conversations that council has had with both minority and majority staff, we've complied with what everyone was expecting. If there's more that people were expecting that aren't, let us know.
Are there additional documents with the estate that have not been provided to the committee within the bounds of the subpoena?
Within the bounds of the subpoena, based upon response, my understanding from council is that whatever was agreed upon to be provided has been provided.
Okay, are there additional documents within that the estate has outside the dates of the subpoena, the subpoena was given, that are in possession of the estate?
I'm sorry, outside the date?
So the subpoena obviously has dates of when to produce documents, period of time.
Mm-hmm.
Are there documents in the possession of the estate outside the period of time within the subpoena that are in the possession of you and Mr. Khan as the co-executives of the estate?
I'm a little bit at a loss here because, you know, what I did in my.
So what you're saying is you won't answer the question if there's additional documents.
You won't let him answer it. Stupid.
The estate essentially gave the documents to council. So I'm a little bit of a loss as to how to answer that question without conferring with council and council telling me what was it.
I think the question is pretty simple. The subpoena has a period of time where you should be producing documents within that period of time.
Specified document.
Right, specified.
We gave you all the documents that were specified.
Correct. So my question is are there additional documents related to Jeffrey Epstein and communications outside the period of time specified in the subpoena that are in the possession of the Epstein estate?
That you didn't ask for.
That we didn't ask for.
So the subpoena would say, give us all the documents.
The question's really clear. Are there additional documents outside the period of time specified in the subpoena that are in possession of the Epstein estate?
I assume so, yes.
You assume so, yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. The next is,
Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
My first question, during your employment by Jeffrey Epstein, did you ever become aware of a relationship between Epstein and Donald Trump?
Oh my God, stop with the freaking Trump
The answer to
shit.
that question is yes, aware of a relationship that existed before my time.
Okay, did you ever become aware of Donald Trump socializing with Epstein during your employment?
No. Again, my relationship with Epstein was not a social relationship like that. And I don't believe Donald Trump was ever in the office when we were there in New York. And I don't recall off the top of my head whether or not Epstein specifically met with him while I was employed as an attorney for Epstein.
And to confirm, you began your employment with Mr. Epstein in 1996?
1996, yes.
You said before your time, so you're not aware of any relationship between the two men after 1996?
I am not personally aware of the relationship they had between the time that I was there, from the time that I was there going forward.
Do you believe they had a relationship?
It's been
And I
proven they've
recall that
had
it no
some type of
longer existed
relationship.
because of
Good
some
grief.
dispute relating to some property in Palm Beach. But I can't tell you what that relationship was from the time I was there going forward, because I don't know.
So you're saying you were not aware of Donald Trump socializing with Epstein. What about with any women connected to Epstein?
I believe that I had learned through a subsequent lawsuit that there was an allegation that President Trump and well, not President Trump at the time, but Donald Trump at the time had some kind of interaction with the person alleging abuse.
Some type of interaction?
I don't recall specific details.
When did you become aware of this allegation?
Oh my God, can they shut the hell up about Trump?
I believe
God.
that I received a copy of a lawsuit. So
That
when
was
that
probably
lawsuit was
later
filed, then I
rebunked
became aware.
or debunked, excuse
How
me.
many sense of when that
Withdrawn.
was, what year that was?
Years ago, I really don't. It was years ago.
But you first said you believe that post 1996, Donald Trump and Epstein did not have a relationship, but at some point after that, you became aware of a lawsuit.
Yes.
Between Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein and an allegation.
I believe the allegation in that lawsuit predated the time that I was working. Lawsuit was in 2009.
That's proposed, and that's when Epstein was scheduled to be deposed.
Okay, do you recall the allegation, the date of the allegation?
Have you ever, exactly, there. Have you ever discussed Donald Trump's connection to Epstein with anyone?
Other than privileged conversations that I've had.
Meaning with his lawyers, not. Is that what you're talking about?
Correct.
During your employment by Epstein, did you ever become aware of Donald Trump visiting a property owned by Epstein, either in New York, New Mexico, Paris, Ireland?
No.
During your employment by Epstein, did you ever become aware of the relationship between Epstein and Howard Lutnick?
No, I didn't know that there was a relationship between Epstein and Howard Lutnick.
So you weren't aware that Mr. Lutnick was Epstein's next door neighbor in Manhattan?
Yes, but I was aware that he was a neighbor in Manhattan, but I wasn't aware that they actually had a relationship.
Okay, I believe that's my time.
Councilman.
Thank you. I'm going to hand you a copy of an exhibit A. And this is a consent order issued by the New York State Department of Financial Services regarding Deutsche Bank July 2020. I'd like you to turn to page 16, paragraph 48. And that reads, several of Mr. Epstein's employees or agents had authority to conduct transactions in the accounts on Mr. Epstein's behalf. One of them, Mr. Epstein's personal attorney, was active in withdrawing cash from Mr. Epstein. Attorney one, on behalf of Mr. Epstein, made a total of 97 withdrawals from the Bank's Park Avenue, New York City branch from 2013 to 2017, personal accounts belonging to Mr. Epstein. So my first question for you, Mr. Indyke, is attorney one here listed, is that you?
I believe that's me, yes.
And can you explain why you were making these withdrawals?
At this time, there was a great deal of negative publicity about
it. Done at the direction of Mr. Epstein. I guess I'll start there.
Great. Well, I would like him to answer the question. If the question is asked, I know, but he has an answer to a serious allegation.
So first, were these at the direction of Mr. Epstein?
Okay.
No, I do not believe that they were at the direction of Mr. Epstein.
Do you know what the cash was used for?
don't have a specific knowledge of what the cash in each instance was used for, but I know generally, or believe generally, that when I made cash withdrawals, they were for things, for petty cash to supply the households for supplies, for cleaning supplies, food.
You gave the cash to who then?
Just to be clear, I don't think he was done. That's okay. I just want the record to be clear. I know, but you can't, but if he's not allowed to answer the questions, it doesn't matter.
Redirect him.
Okay, but just to be clear, he wasn't done. If you want to go on, that's fine.
A follow-up question here, which was the cash, who actually received the cash?
The cash went to the accounting department.
Accounting department of Mr. Epstein.
So there was an office down the hall from my office where the accounting function for Mr. Epstein and his homes was performed. Somebody from the accounting office would ask me for to go to the bank to get money for the petty cash, and the petty cash would service the various households. There were 5 different households, and I would go to the bank with a check drawn on Mr. Epstein's account. The bank knew it was from Mr. Epstein's account. I would get the cash and give it back to the accounting department.
This is a lot of cash. I just want to note, Dave, $7,500 per withdrawal. And that would be 97 withdrawals. That is over the course of 16 months, a total of over $725,000 in cash.
Just to be clear, that paragraph says it's 4 years, not 16 months.
60.
I'm sorry, I misheard. Thank you.
4 years, so 16 months. That's a lot of cash, $725,000.
It's a large amount of cash.
As a lawyer, did that not concern you or raise any red flags?
Well, if you knew that Mr. Epstein had 5 multi-million-dollar residences, or 6 actually with the other island, had dozens of staff members, didn't have use of credit cards, all of those residences had lots of rooms, lots of people working there that needed food, that needed supplies, that needed equipment, that needed tools.
To your knowledge, was any of that, I'm only saying this, sir, because I'm running out of time, was any of that money used to give cash payments to women or young girls?
I just want the record to be clear that he had not finished his prior answer, but good.
So I did not believe that any amount of cash that I gave to the accounting department was going to be used for an improper purpose. I believed that there were legitimate reasons to bring that cash in, and I did so.
Now, I want to switch topics here. Did you have any kind of written representation agreement with Mr. Epstein for the scope of your services as an attorney, a retainer agreement, anything like that?
I believe at some point I did.
That's not available in the file, so produce us.
I don't know that I actually have it anymore.
You don't have it anymore, okay. What were the terms of their scope of representation and also your payment agreement with Mr. Epstein?
The payment was decided on an annual basis. It wasn't decided.
Not upfront, not based on hour?
No.
Whatever he decided to pay you, that's what you receive?
The answer is yes. But he had always been generous with me, so I didn't have any reasons to doubt.
He was very generous with you. So from 2003 to 2013, according to public reports, your personal bank account received more than $2.4 million from Epstein, while your business account received over $8.3 million. You also received a loan that was never repaid of $7 million. And a copy of Mr. Epstein's trust showed that he planned to leave you $50 million, 50, which was matched only by his girlfriend, Karina Chuliak. What were you doing for him that made him so generous to you?
I think I've already discussed all of the things that I did with Mr. Epstein, which were all legitimate legal tasks. I was working for him at least 6 days a week, sometimes 7 days a week. I was on call 24 hours a day with him. And I was not at liberty to take on other clients in a way that other lawyers in private practice would want to take on clients to continue their business.
Yeah. Thank you.
Congressman Sandberg.
Hi.
And so I represent Albuquerque, New Mexico, and Zorro Ranch is just north of my congressional district. And as you're probably aware, New Mexico has opened a truth commission and reopened the criminal investigations into what happened at the ranch. So my questions are primarily fact-finding, less so much about your specific role, but really about the ranch and the investigations and why DOJ asked the state to drop their case. I also have a follow-up question about Trump as well as
Oh my gosh, stop
your
with the
work on
Trump.
defense team. So that's kind of the scope of what I want to ask about. So as I understand it, you help to manage the assets at Zorro Ranch, is that correct?
I wouldn't say I helped to manage the assets,
I'm sorry, now as co-executive or back then?
Were you involved in any legal or financial matters over the course of your employment with Jeffrey Epstein and Zorro Ranch?
I was, yes.
Did you ever travel there?
I traveled to the ranch, I want to say 2 or 3 times.
Are you aware that there are multiple allegations that were taken by the FBI of sexual abuse at the ranch?
I have been made aware of those allegations, yes.
Were you involved in any way, legal or financial, in the defense of Mr. Epstein, either in a state case or a federal case at the ranch?
No. A civil case?
You were involved in a civil case?
In a civil case, and I believe there was a case relating to there was a grazing lease that was taken away.
But in any of the sexual abuse cases?
Yeah.
Do you have any personal knowledge or can you share with us why DOJ asked the state of New Mexico to drop its investigation into sexual abuse?
I have no personal knowledge of that.
I want to move on to a follow-up question on Trump and this suit that was filed by a young woman against both Trump and Epstein for abuse at her house. As I understand it, looking at both the responsive documents that the estate sent us, as well as separately the DOJ's files, it appears to me that these are 2 separate cases. Is that true?
Could you repeat the question?
So that the Jane Doe 4 FBI files that the federal government is tracking, in which a young woman was interviewed 4 times by the FBI for abuse at Jeffrey Epstein's New York estate, is a separate case from the lawsuit that was filed in 2009 against Jeffrey Epstein and Donald Trump. Is that true?
I don't know.
You don't? Okay. Did you help to process the files from the estate that were sent to the committee?
The answer to your question is I did.
Yes. Okay. So you're aware that in the files there's
no that I did not.
You did not.
So the files, all of the files from the estate went over to the lawyers with instructions to comply with all lawful requests.
So it's handled by an outside firm rather than you?
It was handled by the law firm.
Okay. Did you review the documents?
Not the volume of documents that we did.
But you are aware, as was just established, that there was a lawsuit in 2009, and there's documentation in the files that were transmitted from the estate that actually state that Epstein was scheduled for a deposition in that case, correct?
I'm aware, I'm certainly aware now. And I was aware generally of the case. I think I was aware at some point that there was a request for a deposition.
Deposed. These are scheduling documents that came from the estate. Was he deposed in that case?
I believe he was, yeah.
Do you know why?
I don't.
Okay, so that goes to my final set of questions, which is, did you personally or anyone that you worked with make any payments or financial transfers to any lawyers, law enforcement officers, DOJ, or state attorneys involved in cases against Jeffrey Epstein for sexual abuse?
Say that one more time, because that's a lot going back. So
I think just to be clear, because you asked lawyers, so do you mean lawyers for some government in that question?
Sure.
Okay, that's
okay. I'll ask it slightly slower because we are in a time constraint. Really, what I'm trying to establish, if I may have a moment to establish it, because it's an important piece of the question that we're trying to get to the bottom. The overall point here is, why did DOJ and state entities not prosecute these crimes in a more timely manner? And it has been alleged by survivors that they received some sort of payment. Maybe there were transfers of money involved. And so let me ask specifics. Did Alex Acosta, as the U.S. Attorney for the Department of Justice, ever receive any money from Jeffrey Epstein, his estate, or any of his business entities?
My knowledge, no.
To your personal knowledge, you're saying no, but is it possible that he did?
I don't know.
Did any other law enforcement agents, that to your knowledge,
I don't believe so, but I don't know.
but you don't know? Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Walkinshaw?
I'm gonna stop it here. This is like taking a long time, and then they're just rapid fire going to the next person. So anyway, I will talk to y'all later. Have a good one. Bye.